I remember when Yu-Gi-Oh first premiered on WB Kids in the early 2000s. It was such a refreshing and interesting alternative to Pokemon for me as a kid at the time. And I was amazed by these characters with so much attitude wearing these awesome jackets and accessories. Needless to say, it's certainly a source of inspiration for my style experimentation throughout the years, which is why I want to talk about it. So I hope you have your deck ready because it's time to duel. Hola, my name is X, and I like to experiment with fashion as well as talk about whatever the hell I want on social media whenever I feel like it. And in this video, it's really more so a favorite character, outfit, and style video. But before we get into all that, I'm going to give you the 4 main reasons why the fashion and style in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so iconic. And I'm also going to give you 5 real-world fashion designer brands that have some parallels to the style. And I like to do that just to further validate the legitimacy of the fashion style in video games and animated media, because you know that people like to look down on that stuff. So let's just go ahead and add a little bit more value. Then I'm going to move into just doing a quick overview of the latter 4 parts or installments of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, just because I feel like there's some points worth talking about, but I don't think it's like that iconic and really worth dissecting and analyzing to the extent in which I typically do. But then we're going to go ahead and talk about the first 4 installments of the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, and I'm going to go part by part, loosely ranking them in order of least favorite to most favorite, and go over the characters that most resonated with me and my taste, and what I really like about their clothing and fashion choices. But before we get into all that, I have to give a shout out to Paper Mache 7224 for the highest super things I've gotten so far on my Street Fighters favorite outfits video. Once again, I don't know what's up with the rest of y'all, but the fighting game community has been coming through with those dollar bills, y'all, hyping your boy up. And it's incredible to know when the videos can help people with their fashion and character designs. I originally started just getting into this stuff because I obviously love it, but to know that it's adding some additional value on top of maybe just entertainment and a little bit of relatability is incredible. I really appreciate the contribution, and I hope that you're supporting your favorite creators, especially small creators, because every little bit goes a long way, especially in this YouTube game. I do have another shout out to give, but I'm going to save that for another video. But anyway, thank you again, and I hope you enjoy. All right, now let's get into the 4 main reasons why the fashion and style of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so iconic. To begin with, the dramatic and edgy aesthetics of Yu-Gi-Oh! Are what immediately helped the series and franchise stand out from a number of different media. While the clothing naturally resonates with those who are interested in the gothic, punk, and alternative subgenres of fashion, there are a number of different design elements that are key to fashion that can certainly appeal to those who might be curious or are already interested in fashion more broadly, particularly the use of dark colors, sharp edges, and an assortment of different accessories within the different outfits that the characters wear, which manifest themselves through long coats, studded belts, and high collars that just make for really interesting silhouettes and structural looks that are certainly a standout and something that can inspire people to be more experimental and innovative with their clothing choices. To complement those interesting aesthetics, there's bold and distinct character designs that go a long way to differentiate the characters from one another and give them a unique look or personality that helps them be easily recognized. And this typically comes in the form of very unique and kind of out of the box hairstyles, certain personal style choices paired with specific motifs that allude to the different roles or status or kind of motivations that these various characters have from installment to installment. It almost kind of reminds me of JoJo in that regard, because there's so many characters in JoJo and there's obviously a number of different characters in Yu-Gi-Oh! So having really key, unique, differentiated character design can go a long way to just make these characters feel more fresh and diverse and not too one note or dimensional. On top of that, Yu-Gi-Oh! Does a great job of integrating fantastical and futuristic components within more modern day clothing, fashion, and style. Whether it be the Millennium Puzzle from the first installment or the various dual discs that the characters have across the full franchise that kind of double as interesting and cool, unique accessories. Like, it just feels like they blend these elements that elevate the style and bring us out of the mundane and everyday, but still feels like something that's within reach and somewhat tangible because they live and breathe within modern clothing and aesthetics that we're very much familiar with, which just further enhances the franchise's ability to resonate with people across a full spectrum of interests, whether that be sci-fi, history, and finally, with a full spectrum of influences that we can clearly see within the fashion style of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's also nice to see the style evolve over time as the franchise has produced additional installments from the beginning up into very recent years. As I was alluding to, whether it be more of the ancient and mystical influences within the very first installment, or more of the kind of high-tech and futuristic components that we see within the most recent installments, we even see that the clothing choices of the characters and the overall fashion of the time period is very evident, which makes it feel like the series has progressed. It doesn't feel stagnant. We definitely see that it's a reflection of some of the cycles that we've even had within our real world fashion. When a piece of media can achieve aesthetics that can bridge the past, present, and future, you know that it's onto something very innovative and creative, which is why it is so iconic. As far as fashion designer brands, there are 5 that I've identified as having some parallels to the style and aesthetic within Yu-Gi-Oh! Starting with Alexander McQueen, and I've already kind of talked about them having some parallels with Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho. They definitely lean into a darker, edgier aesthetic, but it definitely is much more kind of polished and high class. And they have, for men, very long jackets. They do play with some interesting silhouettes and designs that further complement and accentuate those longer dramatic silhouettes. So that's definitely, I think, a very familiar look. Then we have Gareth Pugh, who I wasn't very familiar with this brand. I don't even know if I'm saying the name right, but they most certainly have some interesting silhouettes within their runway collections and sharp shoulders and just sharp elements in general that we have most certainly seen or will see within the clothing and outfits of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters. Then we have Rick Owens, which that feels pretty natural in terms of its connection, right? But maybe Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't as extreme or super experimental as Rick Owens can be, but Rick certainly plays with unique shapes, alternative and experimental designs, and overall very distinct structures that set it apart from a lot of other fashion houses and brands. And we definitely see elements that have some parallels to Yu-Gi-Oh! In that regard. Then there's Versace. And if you look past their kind of signature print and maybe some more of their elegant kind of traditional or classic pieces, they are not afraid to play with kind of more structural or form-fitting clothing, and they most certainly play with sharper shoulders and kind of just dramatic fabrics in that regard. So I definitely saw maybe some slight parallels. But then there's Balmain, and when I see like some sort of suit or long jacket or something that seems kind of polished or sophisticated, I always think of Balmain, and they are certainly not afraid to play with sharper edged aesthetics, particularly in the shoulders as well, but they are very structural with their designs and certainly have some long dramatic fabrics that I think are also pretty core to their aesthetic, just like Yu-Gi-Oh! Okay, now that we're groovy on all of that good stuff, for these next 2 parts, I am going to address each of the main protagonists and kind of discuss how their style reflects the overall tone of each of the installments within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. But like I was saying, I want to talk about in more of a broader approach these latter 4 installments, just because I feel like there's an evident shift in aesthetic and kind of overall art style and design, starting with Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush. And doesn't seem like there's like many characters within this section, or at least listed on the available wikis, but Udius is the main protagonist, and honestly, his style more so reflects what I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Used to be. And I like the kind of alien component because this character is an alien, and I like his alien form. In his human form, it's kind of like more of that chibi, cutesy style that I'm going to be referencing a lot, that I'm kind of not opposed to, but I don't feel like fits the same tone of how Yu-Gi-Oh! Premiered and its origins. But I love his alien form outfit, like I said. I love the white jacket and how it has that signature silhouette, dramatic silhouette that we know and love so much. And we are getting more of those belt elements that I think are also common and reminiscent of core Yu-Gi-Oh style and aesthetic. And of course, we have some great spiky hair, but it doesn't feel too super colorful cotton candy. It just feels like it's a cool, interesting hairstyle, almost like he's gone supersonic or Super Saiyan. Next, we have Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, and I definitely think that this is super kiddish and definitely not a fave. And we can certainly see that within Yuga, who is the main protagonist here. Like, it seems like this takes place within an elementary school. So, I mean, I don't know if the main fans or like the original fans like myself of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like aged out of the franchise. And so we just really started to go after that cutesy chibi style. But I think that Yuga's outfit is fun, sporty, and cute. Very youthful, obviously, but we're definitely not getting as much of that kind of sharp, dark edge that we typically know and are most familiar with from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fashion and style. It feels just casual, everyday, and definitely accessible, but obviously nothing to really write home about, in my opinion. And that really goes for a number of the other characters as well. Just because there's not as many like grown, mature characters who can maybe flex a little bit more refined or sophisticated in their clothing. Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, I was a little conflicted on because I definitely feel like this one leaned a bit more into the slightly darker, or at least somewhat more mature or interesting kind of tone that we're used to from the franchise. And I feel like Yusaku is actually a really interesting looking character, and I love his hairstyle. But overall, this style leans more into something that's more high-tech, virtual world, technological, which is fine. But each of the characters, or most of the characters, have like these transformations that are more like suits. It doesn't feel like signature staple outfits or like fashion. It just feels kind of almost like JoJo stands, or a little bit like Magical Girl, Sailor Moon, where they transform into something else. But it's really just like kind of technological virtual reality bodysuits, which they look great. We're getting cool colors, interesting color blocking more broadly or generally, and just interesting design. Like, it's different, and I do feel like those designs reflect a little bit of the kind of characters' color palettes or kind of style a little bit, but it's all just kind of full body silhouette. We're not really getting anything, I think, too out of the box, but it is innovative in its stylistic and aesthetic choice and approach, which is refreshing. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V, I was also a little conflicted because I was tempted to cover this, but not as many of the characters had outfits that I felt like were too novel or something completely different than maybe what we've seen already within the first 4 installments especially. Yuya's style, who is the main protagonist, is definitely more interesting and fun, and I think is better accessorized and reflects, I think, more of the showmanship that is a central part of this installment, where it almost reminds me of like the Pokemon contests, where it's not just about battling and skill, it's also about putting on a show and a spectacle. And with that, it kind of leans a bit more into the chibi style, in my opinion, which is more cutesy and fun. The characters do have interesting outfits. It's an interesting hybrid between the original aesthetic and something that's a bit new, but I do feel like Zexal does a little bit of a better job bridging that kind of middle ground, even more so leaning into the core aesthetic of Yu-Gi-Oh! Fashion and style. Okay, and now that we've covered those latter 4 installments within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, let's move into the initial 4 installments. And like I said, these will be ranked in least favorite to most favorite, and I'll go into more of like my actual favorite character outfits starting now. What I feel like differentiates Yuma's style from Yuya's is I feel like Yuya still has a little bit more of that edge to his style, whether it be like the buckles within his sleeveless vest, or it looks like it's sleeveless with a little bit of a hood, and I think an interesting kind of like flare pant or some interesting design there. and just a cool necklace. And even the hairstyle feels a little darker outside of those magenta highlights. It just feels like, even though it's an overall whimsical tone, I just feel like there's a little more punch behind his style. And that's reflective of how the characters within this installment as well harken back to a little bit more of what at least I'm used to. Next we have Dextra, and I think that this one is actually a little bit of a flat outfit. We're not getting as much exaggerated, sharp, I think, gothic or punk elements, but it still just feels sleek, and maybe it's more so the hairstyle and the color palette that I'm biased towards. I do still have a heart for some more kind of classy and sophisticated kind of coordinated sets, and it looks like that's what this character wears from time to time. And there's also even just like there's like a white outfit and a magenta outfit that just feels a little more sophisticated. But then we have Kite, which I feel like is giving us that pointedness that we like, that those sharp edges, the collar, the cape kind of element, or the tail to the coat that he has. It looks like we're getting an all white kind of suit outfit, but then there's also one where there's like a darker jacket as well. And I just like the different kind of colors within that jacket. They're dark, they feel moody, and just even that kind of crown element that he has or headpiece feels very edgy. What really stands out to me the most with regard to Mizar's outfit, or Miser's outfit, is really, I don't know if that's like a vest situation or just like a chest plate, but it's really just like that vest and the incredible kind of shoulder elements that are the most interesting. It almost just feels like there's wings coming off of this character's shoulders, which is really cool. That's very interesting. It's not as stereotypical Yu-Gi-Oh fashion. It feels like something that's a little more progressive and innovative in that regard, with a nice little aesthetic twist. But Nistro's style is just so great. I love it. Definitely feels like more of that refined, mature style that resonates with me. I love I'm seeing two looks. One might be from something that's not part of this installment, but I'm seeing like a double-breasted jacket with like navy in the front with gold buttons, and then like that gray collar and like red or like burgundy or maroon side panels and sleeves. And then even the gloves look like they're dark blue. Like, that's just so interesting. And I'm also seeing an outfit with like a gray jacket with some like fur collar situation going on, with obviously a very great statement belt around the waist. So I just really like the kind of variation that this character has. Quentin, I was a little tempted to kind of skip over. There's another character that kind of had a similar outfit, but it was in mostly kind of like white and off-white and gold. But I really just like almost appreciate the priestly nature of this character's outfit, for lack of a better way to describe it. Loving the exaggerated shoulders, just with that kind of blue top element to the coat or the jacket, and really just the relationship between the blue, the white, and the gold feels very elegant and a little majestic even. Reginald, I'm very biased towards, even though it kind of leans more into like a little bit of the kiddish style like Yuma, but it's the purple color palette. And even the hairstyle is very interesting. Love the purple kind of overshirt. Love the subtle kind of like statement belt underneath that shirt, and then like even a burgundy shirt. Just the combination of purple and burgundy and reddish. What did I say about that? I've said that that's like a great combo, but it doesn't feel like it's making the character feel like they're too serious. If anything, it adds some depth, which makes them feel edgy and cool. So Rio's style is very cute. It just feels like a cute schoolgirl uniform with a nice sharp twist. We're still getting those sharp elements that make it feel like it belongs here and like it's native to the franchise and series. I feel like I'm getting this character style, and is just like a refreshing, softer touch to the sharper, darker style that we typically get from this franchise. Trey is also one of those looks that's a little borderline, where it's just kind of like, we lose some of the sharpness, but I don't mind that, because at least there's what feels like more consistently round elements to this character's outfit. Whether it just kind of be the shoulders and like the element on the shoulder, the red and how it kind of falls, the rounded ruffles, and even the roundedness with how the coat kind of upturns or kind of surrounds the character for an interesting silhouette. Even the pants are like tucked into the boots with a little bit of roundedness to them as well. But now let's move into Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D, starting with Yusei. And I love, this is I think my favorite protagonist design. He just looks so no nonsense, doesn't mess around. Complete dark tone outfit, but there's interesting contrast with some of the more rounded studded elements like in that orange color, and how that's very well complemented by an overall darker navy base to the jacket that he wears. I love the gloves, and I think that they coordinate pretty well with what looks like, I believe this character has like a pair of boots, and it also reflects the overall tone of this installment pretty well, where it just is more dystopian. So this definitely, that's a tone that I get into and I feel like is much more aligned with the core essence of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. Akiza, her attitude, I feel like we definitely get a feminine touch to her, which is great, but there also seems to be enough kind of edge to her as well. Maybe it's more so just the black that's incorporated within her outfit. And she has some nice kind of skirt elements. I love the kind of corset that she has going on, the more kind of bunchy, rounded sleeves. And I like that she's also wearing some stockings with a little bit of body confidence in the leg, and then just how the heels also match up. So there's just great dimension, silhouette, and structure to her outfit. Pro, at first I was kind of like on the fence because the outfit is pretty simple. I think one thing he has is the signature cropped vest. We see that across a few different characters, and I definitely love that. I want more of like a cropped vest within my wardrobe. And I like that his gloves match his boots, and the boots are pretty statement in general. And I like the kind of headband that he wears. It's just a nice additional accessory. So it's not too much, but gives us just enough. Next, we have Gregar, giving us some masculine body confidence. Like, where's the body confidence? I like that his, like, it's like a chest plate, cropped chest plate situation. Amazing. And then there's gold kind of bands and accessories that he has within his outfit, which I love. Some great belt action going on. One that's a little bit more of like a utility belt. Absolutely perfect, and goes very well with like a little bit more of that greenish chest plate or top that he has going on. And then just the white pants, I think, allow all of that to thrive and is a great contrast to those darker colors. And there even seems to be like some little subtle like suspender straps connecting the pants or the belt to the top. So we love a little bit of a suspender moment. So Jack is perfect. It's simple, but we're still getting some of that sharper kind of accessory or element in the mix. I'm also seeing some kind of tall boots. So we're getting some silver hardware, a dramatic long white coat that gives us all of that silhouette, a little bit of like a lighter blue shirt underneath and some darker pants, an interesting choker that's also present, and just some studded elements. So it's not too over the top, like exaggerated accessory. Callan might easily be like my favorite male character outfit in this section. We're getting two, I think, different looks here, if I'm not mistaken. One with, of course, a signature black jacket that has some buckle elements on it, but of course gives us that dramatic wide silhouette and just an overall neutral color palette. We get some belt action, but even the shirt is also kind of like a lighter brown. So that's kind of interesting, and a great necklace. So a little bit of hardware, a little bit of accessory, but all the drama with the coat, which is perfect. But I particularly love, I think, the darker like ego that he has going on with like a cropped jacket, these matching coordinated black pants with those blue design stripes. A very interesting, what looks like maybe all silver belt, or like silver and white belt with like a burgundy shirt, like, and the neck, he seems like he has like a necklace too that's also giving us some sharp edge and just really kind of complements the overall darker essence that he's rolling with in this outfit. So love some duality, love some range. What makes Primo's outfit so interesting to me is really just that gray central component. We have some colors in the mix, just with the kind of green and the red studs or gems or whatever that is on his outfit, but it's that gray element with the rounded high collar, which is unique and innovative, I think, as far as the design. It seems like it might have a kind of harder texture or tougher texture to it. So that's just a nice complement to the overall softer white fabric that we're getting throughout the rest of the outfit. Rex Goodwin is definitely more of a simple, sharp style that is perhaps not as common across the Yu-Gi-Oh franchise. Perhaps a character that is also a nice contrast to more of like the rugged style that we get from a number of the other characters as far as like the setting and tone for this installment. Love the white gloves, love the cropped jacket, love just how there's like, I don't know if it's a belt or just how the pants have a wider kind of waist or band to them, which is also nicely complemented by an interesting design on his shirt. So it just feels very simple and clean and sophisticated. All right, now we're actually going to shift over to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, the original, starting with Yugi, and more particularly Yami Yugi, just because I feel like that alter ego is really giving us that attitude, that edge, that core, the blueprint. We have the Millennium Puzzle around the neck, which is the statement accessory and the icon. Obviously, we get some great belt action and just overall a nice sleek silhouette, but it's really just how the jacket's over the shoulder to give us that drama and to give him that shape and structure. And of course, we get some great kind of like studded cuffs too. So this is like definition of not having to do too much, but making an absolute statement with your fashion and style. Next, we have Raphael. His jacket is absolutely everything. Like, that is a core Yu-Gi-Oh! Jacket. We have plenty of buckle elements around the cuffs and the forearms or the biceps, a super high sharp collar, textural sharps like shoulders, and obviously an incredible silhouette and long and great length, giving us that drama. Some more belt action. He's cool, he's badass, we don't want to mess with him, get out of the way. Darts is giving us something that's just more elegant. Definitely more mystical and more priestly as well. Loving the white, loving the necklace, very kind of contrast juxtaposed to maybe who he is as an actual character. And I'm also seeing a picture of like a purple suit. Is this real? I didn't like, of course, dive in, but either way, it feels native. Like that might be true and real to this character's personal style as well. So just overall something light. May Valentine, you know, I'm biased towards a tall boot, skirt, and like crop situation. She served it. Always will remember her, always and forever. Loving the purple. There's a little bit of variation. Sometimes the jacket, sometimes just that vest, those long gloves. Just like love her simple, chic style. This is also something that's like not so sharp edged, but still with her hairstyle and just her eyes and just the overall essence of her character, like very well placed and a nice contrast to some of the other female characters that we get. Definitely a top female choice. Maximilian Pegasus. Stop. Like, you already know. Just with how that hair is laid, the double-breasted jacket, just the overall red suit, like, icon. Love, love, love his style. Miss his style. Just like effortlessly chic. Effortlessly chic. Knows what he's rolling with. Bring the entourage, like, set it off. Love it. With even a little bit of ruffle action, just to complement those sharper edges. And a little bit of gold accent too. Love his style. But you already know Seto Kaiba came to shut it down. Like, what? Like the boots with the buckles that match perfectly with the buckles in the long sleeves around the biceps. An incredible vest that has those sharp, angular shoulders and then just opens up to a dramatic silhouette, like, and the lining with that little bit of purple, opulence, luxury, designer, and just like the belt action. I mean, the school uniform's not so much to write home about, but like just this, it's this white long vest look with even some stud action going on. Like just, I also love Valen, Alistair, and Duke's looks. The resources for these images are all over the place and not as consistent as other franchises and series, but they obviously have great sleek silhouettes, some cropped elements, and the typical kind of like buckle and belt accessories that we see across a number of other characters. Even if they're not the most main characters, they still have some unique characterization in their fashion and style that certainly helps them stand out, so I definitely wanted to make sure to give them a highlight here. But that actually brings us into Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and I'm very surprised that I think that this set of characters is actually serving so hard. So starting with Jaden as the main protagonist, I mean, he obviously reflects more of a perhaps refreshingly carefree tone in contrast to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters or the initial installment. It's very simple, very basic, but his jacket is statement enough to kind of show that he has some personality, he can flex some style, but overall it's just a lighter tone with a different narrative and really more so about the story and the discovery. Just a nice kind of upbeat attitude. And I remember when this one premiered, but I fell off because I just got bored. That's how you typically do with a number of different things. But I mean, not much more to say, like it's a basic style. Let's get into these characters, starting with Zane, the alter ego look situation that we got going on, which is the moment for him. Obviously, a strong statement jacket with high collar, sharp shoulders, and amazing dramatic silhouette. Signature Yu-Gi-Oh! Style. Those boots match the jacket absolutely perfectly. That shirt that he's wearing is fitted, giving us some musculature and some masculinity. And the pants have these kind of very subtle burgundy touches or design lining and like pattern to them, which is just a nice little touch to help draw you in further. There's depth, there's dimension, and there's just overall kind of great variety in some of the design elements that we're getting in his look. Adrian is another kind of more neutral, simplified, kind of even down to earth kind of outfit. It's an interesting sleeveless top with a very strong statement necklace. The top looks belted, which I love, and it seems like that kind of reddish color just matches nicely with the subtle kind of orange trim or kind of line that we're getting around the collar. And even in some aspects, it looks like he wears some sort of like cloak around his neck and shoulder, which just it brings more of that drama into his overall kind of sleeker, straightforward silhouette. I love Aster's suit. And it just seems so silvery and almost like it has some sort of sheen, like it's a velvet texture, so expensive. But what really got me was the necktie. It looks like it's a metal silver necktie. I love that. I've seen some brands have that, but it's kind of like cheap and I don't think it has the best durability. This one seems like it's thousands of dollars, and it just is such a great compliment to the overall kind of like feel and texture of the suit. And it's like a little bit double-breasted, but there's only like 2 buttons, which is such a nice simple touch. And it just all pops against a little bit of a black undershirt. Axel, finally we get some true melanin up in here, and his outfit has so much detail. Between a cropped vest, which so into it, a strong statement gold necklace, and then all this belt and buckle utility action going on, absolutely just so much detail, a little bit of texture, great dimension, and such a great relationship between all of the different elements that compose the outfit. Camula is giving female Dracula vampire queen vibes, obviously. And a nice, elegant dress style that I don't think we've seen across really any of the female characters, and so mature, such a ladylike aesthetic. And it's pretty straightforward, just with like it overall being that burgundy color, but then enough little gold accessory in there just to highlight some luxury and opulence, and a little bit of extra kind of like fabric and somewhat dramatic detail coming from maybe the back of the dress or just some component of the dress. And then even a little bit of body confidence just with how there's some cutouts or slit towards the side of the dress. It's just gorgeous. Dr. Velian is giving us all the drama that we want and need in all of the signature Yu-Gi-Oh! Elements, with even a little extra touch of flamboyance that I feel like sets him completely apart from the rest. And I love those pink ruffled elements that we get around the neck, the sleeves, the bottom of the top around the waist, and then of course a strong statement blue jacket just to give us some depth and darker mood and seriousness to the look. And also love the boots. The boots are just incredible. Not so sure about the pants. Jesse, similar to Zayn, is giving us an interesting base look that sets the tone for his duality. Love the cropped vest. Overall, the rest of the outfit's pretty pedestrian, but at least we're getting like a strong statement vest, which is a great contrast to darker aesthetic, but we're getting an overall black look. We're getting studded elements and buckles as well. And I think we're even getting a little bit more of like a silhouette and a tail to the vest, which, and even some like along with those studs, they're just like more of that silver element. So it's such a nice contrast to what was like a softer, flatter outfit that he had originally to something that has definitely more punch, edge, and texture to it. Jim brings us something that's once again very unique with more of a cowboy western aesthetic. We've seen things like this before, but it has yet again a cropped vest. Like that's such a consistent element in this installment that I love. And I just feel like it's an overall neutral palette that has a great relationship just because orange and brown, similar to yellow and brown, can be close to each other within the color family, great proximity. And it just overall feels sophisticated, but still like he's in a whole new genre of fashion of his own, but still feels native and connected to the overall kind of style and essence of other characters within this franchise. Titan gives us something that feels a little more steampunk, classic, and a little bit traditional, timeless, even just with like the top hat and the double-breasted jacket. I feel like we've seen this before, but just with his unique tailored elements, like an interesting ruffled kind of neck and collar, it's belted jacket, you already know, and just the silver chest piece or metal chest piece, which maybe seems like it has some sort of relationship with his kind of dual disc situation, but it's also like a cuff, a silver cuff. Interesting hardware, interesting silhouette that feels a little bit innovative for something that is typically kind of traditional and classic. Tanya is in a league of her own as far as the female characters. What a unique design. Talk about body confidence with some excellent musculature on top of that. Plenty of little gold details, buckle details, absolutely, especially those buckle details around her waist, just to really accentuate her silhouette and her hips. Love her pants. Just really love how simple her look is with enough of that buckle decoration to give us texture and detail, that enough to unpack it and not make her feel flat, and a great compliment to her awesome body confidence. Like, she actually might be the top favorite female character. I'm not even gonna front. And Tyranno is also giving us some interesting buckle detail, particularly in those awesome statement boots. But I love how his like bandana looks like a kind of Tyrannosaurus Rex face. It's a little like obvious of like such an obvious motif, but the whole dino like situation that he has going on, even with like the bone kind of necklace, another cropped vest, the color palette feels very natural and organic. So that feels like that's also pretty native to something that's like prehistoric. Overall, that's like a pretty straightforward look, but such an interesting design. No, like I actually overheated my camera on this one, like just going on a crazy tangent once again, unpacking these amazing outfits and diving deep into the style and design that Yu-Gi-Oh! Had to offer us. Tell me, what is your favorite installment within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise? And tell me, what are your favorite signature elements? Maybe even your favorite characters? I would love to know. Hopefully this did Yu-Gi-Oh! Justice. There's not as many like fashion collaborations and things to touch on, but I think that there was enough as far as variety and aesthetic for us to get into. Of course, we'll continue to cover plenty of our favorite media and some other pertinent titles that people are interested in. But of course, until the next video, I'll talk to you later.